Hey Holy Cross, Pastor Rick here. I wanted to take a minute and give some news and then maybe just talk a little bit about where we're at as a church and even as a culture. The first bit of news is joy. This morning, Abe and Blair Halterman welcomed their little boy, Augustin Richard, into the world. He's happy and healthy and 9 pounds and everybody's doing great. So we're rejoicing with them at the birth of their new son. I heard from Pastor Kent this morning that with little Augustin, Gus as they're calling him, put into the mix, we have 84 children, 5th grade and below at Holy Cross. 84. That's a ton of kids. And so God has been blessing our church and we are so grateful for that and thankful for that. So I just wanted to pass that along as a bit of joy that we can share together. The second thing though is just, if I'm being honest with you as your pastor, I miss you all. I miss you all terribly. I have, in the last, I don't know if you've realized this, but we're coming up on 2 months of quarantine. The last 2 months, I have felt very much like a preacher and not very much like a pastor. It is difficult to be so distant from the people that God has called me to care for. And I wanted to express that to you, but I also wanted to express how this could be an opportunity. And I know that sounds like pastor talk, so let me explain this. Those who kind of do thinking and talk about idols, idolatry, as the core kind of basis of our sin, talk about 4 main ones, 4 main idols that are kind of at the ground level, at the core of who we are, and from that comes other things. And those 4 are power, control, approval, and comfort, right? Power, control, approval, and comfort. And I think that this whole quarantine experience is exposing those. It certainly is in me. So let me explain. If you have a highly directive personality, that probably means that what you are struggling with, what's being exposed during this quarantine time, is an idol of power. That's what's going on in me. And so what that means is, what is bugging you, it's the same thing that's bugging me. We have no power to change what's happening. We may agree or disagree with the course that our government is taking, but there's nothing we can do about it. Not a thing. And so if you're like me, what that's making you is irritable, maybe even a little sad, anxious, in some ways just a general sense of malaise. If you have a highly interpersonal personality, like you love people and you get charged off of people, and that is what defines you, then my guess would be that what you're struggling with is an idol of approval. Here's what I mean by that. Let's be honest. Zoom calls are terrible. And one of the worst things about Zoom calls, you have no ability to understand what people are thinking. They're nonverbals. Sometimes they mute themselves and then talk with other people in the room, and you're like, what are they talking about? Maybe they're talking about me, maybe they're not. It's very difficult to get approval, and it's certainly difficult when you can't be around other people. So that's bringing out that idol of approval and making you probably irritable and angry, maybe even a little anxious. If you have a very cautious personality, like cautious, and what I mean by that is you want to have all of your ducks in a row before a decision is made. You want to know that you have made sure that all of the variables you've taken account for. If that's you, then you're probably struggling right now with the idol of control. You have no control over this situation. There's no amount of data that's going to matter because you can't make a change. Quarantine is what it is. The control is based in Richmond, and there's nothing we can do about it. And so that can lead us to feeling anxious, irritable, maybe difficult to be around. Or if you are more of a steady personality. Like the status quo is very nice for you. You don't like conflict, you don't like change. It's just like the status quo. I like things steady. Then my guess is that your idol of comfort is coming out. And what I mean by comfort is just your ability to get the things that you want that are going to make you happy when they're going to make you happy. And you can't. I mean, maybe for the first couple of weeks it was good, right? For the first couple of weeks you were having a great time with the whole idea of quarantine. There were no responsibilities on you. Everything was kind of the way it was going to be. You could stay home. And yet, now my guess would be there's a restlessness in you, and there's nothing you can do about that restlessness. This is what it's done to all of us. This quarantine has exposed our idols. And so what I'm going to suggest is that we take this time to draw nearer to Jesus by repenting of those idols. For me, what that's meant is, as I feel powerless, as I feel angry at being powerless, I'm taking that time to repent to Jesus of my desire for power, because he's the one who has all power and I can trust in him. Or maybe it's the control thing, and you can look and say, my Jesus who's died for me and has loved me has all control, and I can trust him, and I don't need to have control. Or if it's approval, you can look at things and say, I have the approval of my God through Jesus. And it's really okay if I can't see if other people approve of me right now. Or if it's comfort, just recognize the fact that my wholeness, my fullness comes from Jesus and not from my ability to go watch a movie or go eat at a restaurant or go out and get a beer with a friend. That instead it's based on him and what he's done. This is an opportunity for us, as hard as that is for all of us to say, as hard as it is for me to say. This has been a very trying time, a very difficult time. I have felt very much like a preacher, but not much like a pastor, not much like a leader. I've been irritable this morning. I had to call someone that I had been irritable with and apologize to them for it. This is just what happens. If that's what you're experiencing, you're not weird, you're not strange. We're all going through it in some measure. And so, as your pastor, I just wanted to say, I miss you. I want us to flourish. I want this church to flourish. I want you to flourish in the midst of this. And the only way that we're going to do that is by continuing to press in towards Jesus. I love you, and I am praying that we are going to see you very soon.